Until results are announced, winners are announced, we will continue to bring you the latest in the election process for governorships, the governorship seats in Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi State. We just took a breather to look at what other events took place today, and we had our colleague Adegboye bring us all the details of what happened at the GTCO. Now we're back to looking at the situation in these three states. For those that might not have been following, let's just give you a quick recap of some of the key issues here. INEC says registered voters in these three states are 5,409,438. This is also the first off-cycle election that's being conducted by INEC in three states consecutively. And this is also the first off-cycle election since the 2023 general elections. We know 18 political parties are fielding candidates in Kogi, 17 in Imo. I think we have 16 in Bayelsa. I think I'll have to confirm that. But we do know that 2 female candidates are being fielded in this process, and that's in Kogi and Bayelsa State. That's another issue that people talk about, the participation of females in the election process. The updates that we've gotten from the field, from our correspondents on the ground. We've spoken with Bettina not too long ago. She is in Kogi. She told us that the process seemed mostly peaceful. Yes, there were pockets of disturbances here and there, which is expected considering where we're coming from. She said it wasn't as terrible as it's been presented in some quarters. In Imo State, of course, we have our correspondent there who spoke to us as well, Chinwe. She told us of the voter apathy. She told us of concerns about the dominance of security officials in the cities as against the hinterland, and of course, again, voter apathy. So many issues. To look at. But let's tell you, we still have our guests with us.
Of course, talking about our guests, we still have Barrister Emeka, of course, who is the spokesperson for Senator Athan Achonu campaign organization from Imo State, and of course, is joining us virtually. And we still have with us Prince Francis Chilaka, a political analyst and social commentator, who of course currently is in the studio with us. Just to keep you up to speed, the major contenders across the three states. Of course, I will be just mentioning the top 3 contenders. For Imo State, it's Hope Uzodinma, of course, the incumbent governor, Samuel Anyanwu, of course, that's of the PDP, Hope is of the APC, and of course, Athan Achonu of the Labour Party. That's for Imo State. Now, for Kogi State, there you have it on the screen. That's for Imo State. That's Athan Achonu for the Labour Party. Now, let's move to Kogi State right now, where we have Usman Adodo of the APC. Of course, there you have it. And we also have Dino Melaye of the PDP, of course, for Kogi State. And finally, we have Moritala Yakubu Ajaka, who is also a candidate of the SDP. Now let's move to Bayelsa State, where we have Adegboye Diri of the People's Democratic Party, who is also the incumbent governor of Bayelsa State. And of course, still in the match too is Temipire Sylvia of the APC. There in Bayelsa State, of course, you know, battling it out for the top job, and also Eradiri of the Labour Party, still in Bayelsa State there.
All right, let's bring Francis back on. Let's talk about hotspots. Before I go to our virtual guests, talk to us. What are the the usual suspected hotspots in Imo State, and how did they fare this time, to your knowledge?
Talking about the hotspots, you know, we have 3 senatorial zones. We have Okigwe, we have Owerri, and we have Olu. And as you know, when it comes to politics in Imo State, Olu seems to be the real hotspot. And if you check also in terms of those who have been governors, you'll find out that Olu has taken more share than other zones in the state. It's part of the problem that Imo State is having. The problem is that every election seemed to be decided by votes coming in from Olu. But there was a difference when we had 2015 election that brought up Emeka Ihejirika. You saw that the Owerri zone came out boldly and said, no, it is our turn. I'm one of those who don't believe in zoning. I believe that if you want to contest election, let it be that there is something you have to offer to the people. And it's you know, people must know who you are, they must know your character, they must be able to vouch for you. This is what democracy is all about. The zoning formula ends up throwing up people who have questionable character, who cannot even be of good service to the people. So I don't believe in zoning. I believe that, you know, every individual has the capacity to contest. Every individual has the capacity to lead the state. But you must be able to prove it. So if you're talking of the hotbeds in Imo State, it starts from Olu, and then down to Owerri West, down to Okigwe, where we've seen, I mean, these three areas we've seen, we've heard that there's been alleged violence here and there, but then it's not yet confirmed. But then all the other political contenders are saying, oh, there's been violence in this area, there's been, so for me, it's high time, it's high time we as a people begin to find a solution to our political worries.
Yeah, before we talk solutions, there's something I saw earlier today, the fact that Owerri zone seemed to have overtaken Olu zone in voting strength. Ahead of the polls, Premium Times actually reported that Olu zone with 12 local governments came second with a total of 890,702 voters picking up their PVCs. Okigwe zone came third with 395,000, I beg your pardon, 812 voters collecting their PVCs. Do you think that will reflect in the results, or Olu still holds sway despite these figures presented, Francis?
Well, let me take us down memory lane. What has played out? You know, the 2015 election opened the eye of the Owerri zone to understand that they need to do more to be able to take power from those from Olu zone. And that's why you see more people getting registered, more people picking up their PVCs. We hope that, yes, but then we hope that, you know, what will come out at the end of the day will reflect the true voting pattern of the people. If, for instance, Owerri zone has 800 and something, Olu has maybe 600, and Okigwe has 300, what it means is that if you combine Owerri zone and Okigwe zone, obviously there will be power shift, you know, and then there's most likely going to be that, you know, combination. But with the apathy we are hearing about, you know, I'm really worried, you know, how the results will look like.
Of course, yes. I would like to pick up on the apathy part, and this time I will be directing the question to Emeka. Emeka, you made really witty allegations earlier as regards the electoral process. But let's talk about apathy right now, and of course, what impact it might have on the chances of your party, talking about the Labour Party there. Do you see that in any way reflecting, you know, in the outcome in terms of performance of the Labour Party? And why do you even think there was apathy in the first place?
This past election, the presidential election, and the follow-up election, that is the governorship and the House of Assembly election. You know, in Imo State, we didn't do governorship with other people, but we did the House of Assembly election. So the people voted clearly for other parties, and then the results were declared for APC. So that made so many people, and coupled with the fact, in our own opinion, that P2B won the election. And even though the courts have said otherwise, but they now gave it to another person, and the court concurred. So because of that, people are now thinking, why are we going out to vote? After all, our vote will not count. And then look at what has happened today. Yeah, there were people actually came out in some places. People came out in their large numbers, and so some other places they were very, very few. Sorry, I am at home, and the kids are fond of me whenever I'm at home. So whenever you get some distractions, please, I apologize for that. And right now, you see, the issue is that the people coming out were telling us openly that they know that their votes will not count, that they know that these people are going to manipulate the results, that they know that the police and the army are going to aid these people in doing this. Like, we have evidence. All these things I'm telling you, we have evidence to back them up. We have videos, we have every other thing, photographs to back them up. So what we're actually saying is that if this trend continues, in future, nobody will come out. Either they will take up the names of all the candidates to INEC, and then INEC will draw laws and say this person should go. Because in future, people will not be voting. And let me tell you, when people are not voting, it's not good and it's not healthy for the country. Because that vote has a way of deflecting self-help. Now, the people don't trust the judiciary, they don't trust the INEC, they don't trust the people ruling them. And then, what does it portend for the country going forward? It does not portend good, just like what is happening. You people were asking, why is the result being released? Let me tell you the reason. The results are being cooked at the collection centers, right now as we speak.
Have any evidence,
that is where actually,
because these are really weighty allegations, right? And I put it to you, this time around I will rephrase. You said that you would not support, or your party, I want to believe you're speaking on behalf of your party too, would not support a fraudulent outcome. Now, what if at the end of the day, right, I mean, your candidate is pretty popular too, should end up being declared the winner? Will you still consider that fraudulent?
No. Listen. In this election, people voted overwhelmingly for Labour Party. We won the election. I'm telling you, I'm not joking.
This particular
we won the election.
On what grounds?
Now,
do you have evidence to prove it?
If they declare my candidate as winner, it reflects totally.
So it will be fraudulent at that point.
Totally the vote cast today. But do you know what I'm telling you we are against is fraudulent.
I honestly wish we had. I mean, it's easy for you to say these things, and we are not on the ground. So it should have been. Sorry. I mean, we must apologize for not having another. We did reach out to other parties to be a part of this conversation.
It's paining me. Do you know why it's paining me?
Can you hold on, sir? Please hold on.
I wanted to hear what he would say.
Sir, please hold on.
I wanted to hear what he would say.
Please hold on. Please hold on. Please hold on, sir. So we will try as much as we can to keep this conversation as balanced as possible. Francis is still with us in the studio. We will come back to you, but let's look at other issues. Some areas, we'll come back to the issue in Imo State. But Francis, priority voting seems to be coming up a lot more. We now see journalists telling us, my colleague, I've been watching them through the day, telling us how this has been given some, recognition befitting of some of our cultures and tradition of showing care and a little bit of preferential treatment in these situations to allow the elderly, the frail, and the ones that are unable to do things themselves get the opportunity to cast their ballot. What would be your assessment of the growth in our efforts to prioritize giving priority treatment at polling units?
It's not just with today's election. The February and the March elections, priority was given to the elderly. At least in those elections, I was very much involved. I believe it is proper. I believe it is acceptable because most of them are very free. You don't expect them to stand under the sun for hours. Once the elderly comes, give them room. Actually, I noticed that during the governorship election in Lagos State, they created a separate queue for the elderly, and they had no problem voting and going back home to go and rest. So I think it's the right thing to do, but I still believe that we can do better. Doing better in the sense that we need to find a way to stop people from queuing for hours for accreditation. We're in a technology age, and I believe that with all the money that is being pumped into INEC, we should be able to cast our votes using our phone. After all, when you have Big Brother Niger, people cast their votes from their homes, and it's counted.
But some have argued that using that process, what do you make of people who don't have access to internet, for instance, or even cell phones, those in the interlands? That automatically cuts them off. Don't you think so?
Well, it also means that the government should take steps to provide the necessary infrastructure, which is why government is there in the first place. If government provides infrastructure, we won't be talking about, rural areas not having internet. So it boils down to the fact that, governance is a problem in Nigeria. Providing of infrastructure is a problem in Nigeria. We need to move away from the situation where, like, if you listen to your reporters, everything about the security is focused on the state capitals, which is wrong. They're not providing security for people in the rural areas where they know that there is a lot of things can go wrong. So why would you have all the security personnel stationed in one area? It defeats the whole purpose of deploying this security personnel. They should be able to go around, and the same happens with infrastructure. Government should know that their duty is to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. Create infrastructure so that things can work in the country.
I mean, that's the whole purpose of election in the first instance. Let's get the right people in the right position. But then they said you have to choose between the devil and the deep blue sea sometimes when it comes to elections in Nigeria. Ihejirika, I want to come to you and move away a bit from the accusation and counter-accusation to ask you to give us your honest feedback on INEC's conduct of the process compared to other elections. Let's say the previous governorship election in Imo State, your experience at the polling unit, how seamless was it for you and maybe for some persons that you also know? Let's not talk about whether it was manipulated or not. Let's talk about the process itself. Was it easy? Do you have issues to complain about the process with INEC at this point? Ihejirika, can you hear me?
Yeah, you said we should talk about the process.
Yes, your experience,
your
INEC's conduct of the process. Were you able to get there? Did you find your name? Was it easy for you to do your thumbprint and leave? Or were there complications? If you compare this experience and your previous experience in the governorship election, how would you rate INEC's performance?
INEC performance today,
yes,
I will rate it at less than 10. Let me tell you, the 1999 governorship election in Imo State is, and it was far better than what we had today. Sometimes the INEC people keep giving one excuse or the other. Yeah, truly, some of them came to the polling units on time. But what I'm actually saying is that the process was a little bit seamless because of the apathy. So there were extremely few people who came to cast their votes. But even the machinery to what do they call it? They will tell you, they will complain one thing or the other. The password is not there. This one is not there. This one is not there. And then some of them came to the polling units with pre-recorded. They've already recorded everything.
Sir, did you see that personally? Okay, I think... I'm sorry, you said some came with pre-recorded materials. Did you personally see that?
See, I am going to upload all our evidence to you people.
Well, okay, how do we get it? How do we have access to it?
You have your website. There must be a platform. You have your platforms.
Yes, so, we do have a WhatsApp number.
We have a WhatsApp number. I mean, we will really love to have it. I mean, it's on the screen right now. You can see all our platforms there. We'll really love to have some of these,
so we are going to send,
evidences.
We're going to send all the evidence to you because I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. I deal with evidence. Hello? I'm a lawyer.
Okay, so
so
that's the WhatsApp number on the screen,
which of course
you can also send an email. I mean, we would love to have this, right? Because you've really said some weighty, you've made some weighty allegations, here this evening, and of course it would be nice to, back it up with some evidence. But quickly, can I just leave you briefly and just go to Ikenna, who is actually the special advisor on media to the PDP governorship candidate. Ikenna, thank you so much for your time. And of course, I mean, how would you rate the conduct of INEC this time around compared to previous elections in the state?
I still have time to talk to my audience. Today's election, I give them less than 5%. 1999 election and 2023 election, 2003 election are better than today's election. In fact, what we will experience today is not election, but distraction and selection. That is only what we experience today. However, to tell you that today's election was marred with irregularities.
Ikenna, let me interject and focus the question. Ikenna, let me interject and focus the question. The question is your personal experience. Did you vote today? If yes, was it easier or harder for you to exercise your franchise at that polling unit? Ikenna, did you get my question?
Please, can you come up again? I think I didn't get you right.
I am asking you.
Can you come up with your question?
Okay, I'm saying we're not asking for a generalized view. We're asking for your personal view of the process, your experience, compared to other times when you went out to cast your vote. Was it easy for you? Did you find your name easily? Did you vote and leave? Did you see how the process went compared to other times that you voted in Imo State? The focus is on INEC performance.
Yeah. What I'm trying to tell you is that if I voted and my people did not vote, I don't think it makes meaning to tell anybody that I actually voted. What I'm trying to say is that today's election is devoid, is really far from the reality of an election that you can easily find in any democratic governance. I actually tried to do that, but it was so difficult for us. In Isu local government, where I come from, Isu local government in Imo State, where I come from, there were lots of sporadic shootings, gunshots, and vote buying. In Imo State.
Okay, I think the network has cut off Ikenna for a bit. Let's come back to you, Ihejirika. Okay, let's come to, yes, Ihejirika. I would like to ask you your your perception of the conduct of officials of INEC, not the people now, were they compliant with all the promises that INEC made as to how their officials will behave at the polling unit and how they will treat voters?
The only advice I will give to, before I answer your question, I will give this advice to Nigerians.
Go ahead. Okay, we seem to have a challenge. Francis, if you could take on that question, please.
Okay. Talking about INEC.
Yes, talking about INEC, and of course, in terms of the know-how. So, I mean, there have been cases where, because of the introduction of technology, for instance, we've seen cases where some INEC officials might not be, up to speed in terms of the technicalities involved. And so the issue of training and retraining comes up, particularly for ad hoc staff when it comes to seasons like this. How, from your, analytical perspective, how would you rate the, performance in terms of the personnel, INEC personnel, in this off-cycle elections?
We're in a technological age where gadgets are meant to be studied and utilized. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we're not proactive. We're rather reactive. Those in power are always reactive. INEC should have a program where ad hocs are trained at least for 3 months, minimum. Train and retrain, train and retrain. But that's not what is happening. What is happening is that, they just announce, give them a few days training, and you push them out. You won't get a substance of what you want. And that is why most times when the INEC ad hoc staffs go into the field, you find them fidgeting with the system because they'll tell you, oh, password didn't go through. This one didn't go through. It's not because the thing is not working, but just because they don't have in-depth knowledge of the system that they're using. I had thought that with what happened in the last presidential and governorship elections before now, that INEC should have had enough time to train and retrain its ad hoc staff. Why is it that every time during an election, we wait for the dying minute before we begin to, INEC waits for the dying minute before it begins to train its ad hoc staff? Moreover, INEC should be able to continue its voters' education, ad hoc training a year before the next election. There's ample time. INEC has an ample time to prepare itself. But unfortunately, they don't utilize it. And that is why, you keep having all these issues coming up. And people are saying, oh, everything that goes wrong with the election, forget the security side of it. Every other thing that goes wrong is INEC.
Another issue people have raised is the aspect of accountability also on the aspect of INEC in terms of the monies budgeted for, allocated, how it's spent, and the eventual outcome. One issue that, of course, recently has been around in terms of deliberation, conversations, and also debate has to do with the IREV, portal. We saw that happen during the presidential elections, and then the law says, INEC is at liberty to actually transmit the results, whether manually or electronically. But yet, a budget, a whooping sum was voted for that process. So on the aspect of accountability, I want to ask you, who holds INEC accountable, particularly for money spent during times like this? The eventual outcome.
Who in this country holds the executive accountable? Who holds your governors accountable? Who holds your senators accountable? The issue of accountability starts from the top. So long as the head is bad, the rest is something else. So the Nigerian leaders do not want to hear that word accountability. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear accountability. They don't want to hear transparency. They don't want to hear inclusiveness. And these are the fundamentals on which democracy lies. But nobody's held accountable. And that is why your senators will wake up and decide in a country where people are finding it difficult to feed right now. You're buying cars worth 160 million naira each. Who is holding them accountable? So INEC was given a lot of money. And INEC, if I remember, before the presidential election itself, INEC went to Chatham House and told the whole world that they were prepared and that the IRF was going to work and that the elections would be transmitted electronically. I mean, results would be transmitted electronically. But what did we get at the end of the day? And the Supreme Court has come to tell you, oh, that INEC is at liberty. That is the issue of lack of accountability. If you're saying that they're at liberty, it means that the whole money that was voted for the process of bringing technology into our electionary process has been wasted.
Well, of course, I mean, these are really, really deep of words for thought. But right now, we need to go on a break. Of course, when we return, we still have Francis Chilaka in the studio with us to shed more light. And of course, our guest also joining in online and our correspondents across the voting states. This is The Ballot. Stay with us.